Hello and welcome back to Suburban Hunt 365. I'm DJ. We are back in the reloading room again today, and we are continuing on with our muzzleloader series here on this channel. Today's episode was actually prompted by one of our subscribers, and we'll throw this comment up here. It is Sparkia1629 was asking to if we could have a look at the Hornady XPT. Now this comment says .44 cal and the 240 grain or 300 with the green sabots. And what we have for you today is just that. This is the Hornady XTPs. This is the 240 grain. Now his comment mentioned a 44 cal. This is a .430 with the 50 cal sabot. I assume that is the same, and they are in fact the green sabos on there. Now these are a hollow point design like this, so it is a hollow point. Now before we get into it, we're going to be looking at the pellets because he made that comment on another pellet test video, so by that I kind of assumed that he wanted it to be with the pellets and how it stood up with the other pellets. So that's exactly what we've done. So we are going to be running the 777 Pyrodex, White Hots, Fire Stars, and the 777 Magnums in this test today. I've basically gone away with the Alliant Blue MZs. They're really not that accessible to find unless you order them, and they've really not done well out of my particular rifle. So we're just going to stop testing with those. Hey guys, just want to interrupt you real fast. I want to throw a huge shout out to the Clarkson clan. For those of you that have been watching the channel, you may remember Rob's name. Rob was the one that helped us find those 209 primers when there really wasn't any to be found, which allowed us to do the testing for those and to prove that it actually does make tighter groups. So I've actually been in contact with Rob and his clan this whole season, and they have done a fantastic job. Earlier in the season, Jacob pulls out this beautiful 8-pointer right here. He is swinging a 247 grain Thor hammer projectile, and he is pushing that with Blackhorn 209, 70 grains by weight. Fantastic deer, young man. Awesome job behind the stick, my friend. Awesome job. And not to be outdone, Mama comes in strong too. Tia has got this nice 8-pointer right here. Beautiful deer. And she is swinging the FTXs, the 290 grain Borlocks, and she is pushing that with Blackhorn 209, 80 grains by weight. Again, fantastic harvest. Love hearing that stuff, guys. Love it. And then Rob comes in with a nice, tasty morsel that is a big nanny that you see here. He is swinging the ELDXs, and he is pushing that with the Blackhorn 209, 80 grains by weight. So again, guys, congratulations on those harvests. Fantastic job. I know you guys have put your own time and effort into getting those smoke poles ready. Fantastic jobs. Congratulations, and good luck the rest of this season. Alright guys, I'll let you guys get back to it. You're going to see here in just a second when we get started with this that I do have, by popular demand, the velocities for each one of these shots. I had been using a competition electric chronograph, but for some reason with the box it takes the light, so it's got to have the poles and the top part and everything. It's just cumbersome to take with me when I travel. So what I've done is I went out and got a Magneto speed chronograph. This is the V3. This is the one that I'm using during this test today to give you the velocities. Now part of this, we'll get into it deeper in a different video, was concerned because I am using a black powder and the amount of force coming out of the barrel. Is it going to cause any problems? A lot of the comments I saw said no, guys have been running it for a while. And I just made sure that after every single shot, my reloading process included wiping off the sensor. So that is what I've used for these, and you'll see that little screen there at the bottom showing you those velocities. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into these tests. The 777 100 grain charge, 2 pellets, Hornady XPTs. Alright, that's not a bad way to start this off. That group came in at 1 1/4 of an inch. And you can definitely tell by looking at our velocities there, we're dealing with 1696 to 1715. So what is that, about 19 feet per second difference between the three? That's actually pretty good, pretty stable, I would think, between those. So inch and a quarter, not too shabby. Let's go ahead and let's see what adding another pellet does. 777 150 grain charge. Alright, that definitely kicked up there from the bullseye, where the last one was kind of around that. This one's a little bit higher. This group actually came in at 3 3/4 of an inch. And with this particular group, if you look at those velocities, that lets you know that even though we got almost identical velocities, that sometimes that amount of pressure, that amount of speed, the projectile doesn't really like it. And that is evident by this right here. We're looking at 2152, 2151, and 2152 again. So, I mean, we're talking 1 feet per second difference between the three of those groups, between each one of those three shots. But yet we had a 3 3/4 inch group. So just because it's consistent doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have tight groups. But in order to consistently have tight groups, you need to be consistent. But let's see if the Pyrodex can do any better. Pyrodex, 100 grains, 2 pellets. All right, that one ended up coming in at a 3-inch group. So not too awesome. Now looking at the velocities here, the 777 100 grains was running about 16 to 1700 feet per second in that range, and this one is more of a 1737, 1800s. So we're definitely a little bit faster with the average on the Pyrodex versus the 777s, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this projectile likes that, because as you see, we have a 3-inch group. So keeping those velocities in mind. So let's go ahead and add another pellet of the Pyrodex, and let's see how Pyrodex 150 grains, 3 pellets. Oof. Alright, first off, that was an extremely high group, because that first group that you just saw with the 100 grains, that was the red dot that I was aiming at. It was that red circle there. I was aiming at the bottom one for that 150 grain, and we're hitting on the top target. That first shot was in the ring on the top target. So there's a huge difference between 100 grains and 150 grains as far as point of aim, point of impact with these particular rounds. Added to that, that ended up being a 5.5-inch group. Not a fantastic showing for the Pyrodex. Now, I want to take this second here real quick, because we had 777s and we have the Pyrodex that we've both looked at right now. If you guys can recall, when I was doing the Thor testing, right, I had the .501s, and they were a nightmare to get down into that barrel. That was very reminiscent of what we saw with these. I'm not sure what it is about these XTPs, but they were, I mean, it took a lot to get those down inside that barrel. Even with the clean bore, it didn't matter. It was a pain in the butt. So that's kind of why, if you go back and you look at that Thor, we know that that projectile was a little bit bigger for my barrel. And I had to assume that was causing more pressures. So those groups are very similar to what we're seeing today. So I really think that that's got something to do with it, is because this is so tight inside my barrel. So for those of you guys that haven't seen it, the Thor I measured out needed to be the .500. There are plenty of guys that run the .501s. If your gun runs one of those 501s, then there's a good chance you're going to shoot a whole lot better and a whole lot different than these, than what I'm seeing today. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we're going to keep on going here. Let's go see what the white hots, 100 grains. All right, so the white hots. Well, that one came in at 3.5 inches. So it kind of seems to be what we're dealing with. Now looking at this, that is 1746, 1655, 75 rather, and what looks to be 1704. So we're in that 1617 range, kind of like we were with the 777s. Again, the Pyrodex was a little bit faster than that on the 100 grains. the pressures are going to be a little bit different, obviously, with that 1 1/4 inch group with the 777 100 grains. So let's keep moving. White hots, 150 grains, 3 pellets. Let's see how it does. Alright, there again, we're definitely rising up with that particular projectile. And from what I'm seeing, these XTPs do not like the higher powder charges, because that came in at 5 1/4 inch. Yeah, 5 1/4 inch group. So far across all these pellets, the 150 charges are really not doing that hot. Really not doing that hot. So this one was falling in at about the 2,000, 2,100 range. So maybe that's what it is. It just doesn't like the faster velocities, at least not out of my rifle. Now, just so you know, the CVA Optima V2 does have a 1 in 28 twist. So, take that as a little bit of nugget there to, figure out what you want to do with yours. So not too great on the three pellet charges there. Well, ironically, we're going to move into Fire Stars, which happens to be a 3 pellet charge, but 33 grains is closer to a 100 grain charge. So Fire Stars, 3 pellets. Alright, so that's not too bad right there. They ended up coming in at a 2 7/8, so just under that 3-inch mark there. The interesting thing though is the velocities on this are kind of reminiscent of the Pirate X with that 17-18 range, as opposed to the 777s with 16-17 range. But came in a lot better group at the 2 7/8 of an inch. So, you gotta take that with what it is. So far, these are not doing amazing out of my particular rifle. There again, I contribute that to how tight it was getting into the barrel in the first place. So, but let's go ahead and let's move up to the Firestar 4 pellets and let's see what that does. Alright guys, as you can see from that footage right there, it is getting a little bit darker, because right now basically what I was dealing with that day was we had good rain come in that morning, and we got about a 4-hour window in the afternoon to be able to shoot. And here we are getting towards the end of the day, and I'm underneath the cover. So what happened is my phone that I'm using through the spotting scope automatically turned on the flash, and that's why you have that glare right there and there. It was kind of hard to see. But regardless, this particular one may be subject to the sacrificial shot. Now, I only gave it a 3-shot group because I firmly believe that if I'm going to take this out in the woods, I'm going to use it as if I'm going out in the woods. First shot, second shot, and third shot are going to be what I count. I know there are those of you that swear by, shooting a sacrificial shot to put something down the barrel, to foul your barrel. But quite frankly, there are too many good projectile combos out there that don't require me to waste rounds and waste powder. So that's why I do it the way I do it. You free to disagree with me all you want to, and that's your right. So, but anyway, this particular group came in at 4 5/8 of an inch, so just a little bit over that 4.5 inch mark. Not fantastic, but there again, the first shot was low. Next 2 shots followed over right there. I probably should have ran one more shot just to kind of see where that lands. I've done it in the past, but as you know, I was kind of pressed for daylight left, and I went ahead and just ran those 3. So 4 5/8, not fantastic. But then again, this projectile hasn't done well with the higher velocities. And you're looking at here, this is 2044, 2041, and 2034, which are actually pretty consistent, but that's what you get. So last but certainly not least, let's get into the 777 Magnums. Again, I only run the 2 pellets because that's a 120 grain charge. So 777 Magnums. Alright, not a completely terrible showing. That is 3 3/4 of an inch, which kind of seems to be a recurring theme with this particular projectile and my rifle. There again, guys, I don't want to dissuade you away from this too much because of the fact that it was really tough to get each one of these shots down the barrel when I was shooting these. So, and again, as I've seen in the past with those Thors, my gun does not group well, or my groups have not been awesome when dealing with a projectile that is really hard for me to get in there. Alright guys, so that is your XTPs. So let's go ahead and throw this graph up here real quick and let's look at it. So as you can tell, this actually did come in dead last. The average group size was 3.72, so I was pretty much right on the money when I was saying that the 3 3/4 inch group is pretty much what we've seen across the board. So, I mean, you go from a 1 1/4 inch group, which will definitely take the win today in that 100 grain 777s with 2 pellets. But then you got 3 3/4, a 3, a 5.5, 3.5, 5 1/4, 2 7/8. So you can definitely see consistently bigger groups with the higher velocities. Well, whether it's 777, Pirate X, White Hots, what have you, with the higher charges, this XTP does not really care for them. And I think that also attributes to why the 777 Magnums did the way they did, because it is a Magnum load, it's a 120 grain charge. So looking at 100 grain charges, 1 1/4, 3 inch, 3.5 inch, 2 7/8 on the Firestar for the 100. So it definitely likes those lighter charges. So if you guys are planning on using these, maybe look at those. But again, when you guys try these out, see how hard they are. And Sparky, I would really like your kind of feedback, because you wanted to know how those measured up. You mentioned in your comment because it was one of the earlier Sabos that came out. I'm curious, when you put it in your barrel, is it stiff? Is it hard? Is it difficult to get it down that barrel with that Sabo? Because honestly, looking across all of these, the ones with the Sabos are towards the end of my run here. So looking at it, the first one is the 5th one, which is the Nosler, which was a Sabo. But then you come in at the 290 grain TEZs rather, from Barnes, and then we got those down there as well. So between the hollow point and the Sabo being so tight in my rifle, I really contribute that to the lack of performance out of my rifle. So there again, guys, if it's you got to get out there and shoot it for you. Anything that's tight like that is not going to do well in mine. So if you guys have stuck with us so far, I definitely appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button so the algorithm will know that you appreciate this kind of content. And then do me a favor, leave the comments down below, because this video was prompted by a subscriber saying, hey, try this. I definitely want to there's a lot of different combinations out there. So either I can just pick one, or you guys can let me know what it is that you guys want to see. So again, if you guys have stuck with us this far, I'm DJ from Suburban Hunt 365. I definitely appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.